I'm Crystal Sparks here at Scientific Sessions, where we are joined here with Dr. Erin Michos with Johns Hopkins University. She has a very meaty title, so I want you to explain to me what you do and why it's important.
So I'm the Director of Women's Cardiovascular Health Research and the Associate Director of Preventive Cardiology, and importantly, I'm an AHA-funded researcher.
And what does that mean?
So I am one of the co-center directors for an AHA Strategic Focused Research Network studying how to improve the diversity of cardiovascular clinical trials. And I'm also part of my colleagues' Health Technology and Innovation, SFRN.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about the health, technology, and innovation in a second, but I also want to know from you why it's important to have a diversity in trials.
Right, so clinical trials, the results from that really serve as the basis for our guidelines. It's the evidence base for the guideline recommendations of how we treat patients. And so it's very important that participants in trials represents the types of patients we care for in clinical practice every single day. Because if the patients in trials don't represent the patients we care for, we won't know information about efficacy and safety among diverse populations.
Okay, so let's talk about health information technology now. I know you've been going to a lot of the talks today, the sessions, you've been taking part in some of them. What excites you about what's happening here this week?
Yeah, so I just came from an amazing session in our Health Tech Pavilion. So we had a special session about health tech for researchers, how researchers can use mobile technologies to improve research. And I moderated a panel discussion, and we had a really good conversation about the digital divide. Can technology actually, improve diversity, improve representation in trials, or is it perhaps a barrier, especially those with perhaps lower socioeconomic status or from underrepresented minority groups? But the consensus was that it actually can improve representation of research. For example, in women, we know in cardiac rehab that female participants are less likely to enroll in cardiac rehab because they often have caregiver responsibilities at home, either small children or maybe they're caring for aging parents, and so they can't come physically to cardiac rehab. But my colleagues and others have been studying how to do digital technology, digital cardiac rehab to deliver that same kind of recommendation and care in cardiac rehab, but to do it remotely, virtually, to allow participations, in a more flexible manner that may make things easier for women and also underrepresented populations who maybe can't come to a study site, 3 times a week.
That sounds like critical work you're doing.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. There's so many exciting things here at the American Heart Association Scientific Sessions. Just this morning we had an amazing late-breaking clinical trials. So one population, we care for a lot is persons with overweight and obesity. And this is a population I really care about. Obesity is a serious chronic life-threatening disease associated with cardiovascular risk and mortality. But somehow persons with overweight and obesity have gotten stigmatized as somehow this being their fault or a lifestyle disease, and we know it's far more complicated than calories in, calories out. So at the AHA this morning, we heard the results of the SELECT trial. It was a very important trial. It enrolled persons who had cardiovascular disease, so they were high risk, who had overweight and obesity, but not diabetes, and evaluated a therapy, these GLP-1 receptor agonists, semaglutide, compared to placebo, and showed that this therapy, which confers weight loss, also conferred a 20% reduction in major cardiovascular events. So treatment of obesity, can be life-saving. There was also a reduction in all-cause mortality by 19%. And so I think this is a game changer, that management, chronic weight management, is in the wheelhouse of cardiologists, and that we should treat obesity just like we treat lipids and we treat blood pressure.
I love how fired up you are about these topics. Okay, do you have something you would say to someone who may be on the fence about whether or not they want to come to the scientific sessions next year?
Oh, well, this is one of my favorite meetings. So there's so much going on. As I mentioned, I talked about late-breaking science, so you get to hear about cutting-edge clinical trials. But we have all of the other research, the poster sessions, the moderated posters, and the oral presentations, so cutting-edge researchers. I have a lot of mentees, so my fellows and my trainees, they get to come and present their science here, and I'm so proud to see them and come support our young, up-and-coming junior investigators. They're the future of cardiovascular medicine. person. And then, of course, the networking opportunities. At lunch today, we had a Women in Cardiology luncheon, a networking session, which was really great to come together and share some of the challenges that women in cardiology might have and find that support system. And so this is where we come to sessions, is really to connect with our colleagues from really all over the globe.
I love your passion for this. Not all heroes wear capes. Thank you so much for your time. I'm Crystal Sparks.